Recording. We are
Yes,
recording.
we are recording. Hello, Jamie.
Hey,
It's so good to see your face again,
same.
as always.
Oh, it's good. It's just a fantastic, whatever are we in? Week? I'm not sure what day it is, but it's been a good cluster of days after
Yes,
that moon calmed down. I mean, I'm not one to believe in astrology or anything like that, but it was very hard not to believe in astrology at that last Leo full moon, wasn't it?
I am so with you on this one. So with you.
I don't like to think that I'm susceptible to that stuff, but I got a fucking hiding. It was the dark side of the Leo as well, is what I experienced. It was powerful.
What did it do to you? What happened?
It dissolved the shadow side of my knight in shining armor archetype. There's a
Ah.
positive side to being a protector and to being a giver, and the things about even a rescuer in certain circumstances. Let's not disparage anyone, but there's also a shadow to it where it can become either a martyr thing, or it can become a exhausting yourself thing, or a in denial that it's even your job to save everyone. And there's a shadow side to it that's all over the place. And if you're not as enlightened as this, it can really fuck you up.
Totally true. I've been actually going through something similar but different with my inner I know it better bitch. Like I'm getting this full clarity on where, especially in my partnership, where I'm like, okay, I think I know it better. To actually just let that go and be like, okay, woman, you can be a bit more humble than that. It's good to want to advise someone, and it's good to have like this view, like this detached observer kind of view on other people's lives,
Yeah.
and have a clear idea on what the best choice for them could be. It can be great if people actually want that, but to
And best is always quickest.
push that into their mouth, like I'm getting like, I mean, it's not that extreme, but I'm getting like a kind of a humbling session on that.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I've also been having a really beautiful time, particularly with the daughters, the youngest one, who's now beginning to experiment much more like with makeup and what she wants to look like. She's 13 and a half, listening to a lot of vinyl. And just like, it's a very interesting thing to give them a positive, because she's also quite often a bit controlling or a bit like nervous around. It's interesting to empower her positively to experiment with however she wants to do her makeup or her nails or her hair, or just look like this or that and play with that. You've got to kind of come in under the radar, like send positive messages, but not so much that they notice. You can't be like, oh, darling, you look amazing. You can't do any of that shit.
That is, I have the exact same thing. Like we both have 3 daughters, and my eldest is 12, almost 12 now, and I have the exact same experience with her. If I tell her I'm proud of her, she's like,
no, but if you just say, hey, man, if you're trying a different look there tonight, she goes, yeah. I go, oh, it looks great. But not make a big deal. She goes, thanks. She takes it when it's under the radar, when it's subtle. It's like, if you just do it really, like, you can feed in all the positivity, like, under the radar. This is what I'm noticing.
Yeah.
They don't realize they're being positively upheld and affirmed because it's so subtle and small, rather than making a big song and dance of it. Anyway, we've just been having that.
My girls, they can be so much like, oh yeah, mom, don't make it so obvious. Like, mom, you're being weird now. Just don't, just don't try so much. Yeah. So we have people sending us some stuff, actually. Let's see if we can weave that into a conversation, like very elegantly, so that nobody will actually notice. And people want us to talk about relationships, about attachment and not attaching too much. And actually one that I think you would like to talk about is like, how do I enter a relationship without fully exposing myself completely and then feeling, exposed and tender, and, I bet you have something wise to say by that.
Yeah, because I'm I have nut allergies to certain areas of this. But what I think is, if I was in charge of the whole process for everybody, or for me, I'm not in charge of anything for anyone, least of all myself. I like the idea of slowness and courtship And, you know, we're in such an immediate now groove with our smartphones and our rhythm and pace of life. People sleep with each other a lot quicker than they used to. And it's not even first date, second date, or third date. It's just like people would get to know each other and really make a bond, maybe over weeks or months, to really take it to that step of actually being naked with each other. You know, that'd be like, woo! How beautiful. You know, when you do things slower, when you do things making each more precious and each, you know, I think there's something in that. Like
there's a very famous tantric practice called the 7 views, and that's actually a lot about that. It's like first being present with each other with your clothes on, and then touching each other, just certain parts of the body over the clothes, and only like, and then for each view you can either take an hour or a month or sometimes a year until you progress to the next one, and only the 7th is sexual intercourse.
And in Taoism they talk about stirring the pot. We're gradually building up chi, but through little flirtations, through just fingertips on the cheek, through a certain kind of eye contact or glance, even across distance, from all these things, you're kind of stirring the pot, and you're creating an actual field. You know, just like in horse healing, they have like a field of the horse's heart around that we're all entering. Our heart field is a lot bigger than our body. And you cultivate those two meeting and all that. I'm very turned on by slowness. In fact, I read a great book called Slow Sex by Diane Richardson, which was so educational. When I first got it, I was like, I don't need to read this shit. I know what I'm doing. But it really, 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 like, it doesn't just tell you stuff. It kind of makes your mind look at the whole subject in certain ways. And it's like, it speaks on a lot of levels, that book. I think it's a really special one. So everything's slower, and becoming such good friends where you know that the reason you're coming together, now this isn't for everyone, I know sometimes this isn't for everyone, but the reason you're together is to be such beautiful friends, that it's not dependent on the sex. I mean, sex may or may not be degrees of how central it is, but it's not like how the sex is and how quickly we did it and all that is what the center of the whole experience together is about. It's one of many beautiful things that you share, and that you, not for everyone, but I feel that if you become much, much closer friends, then even if the sexual part of it or the lover relationship part of it got bumpy, you've got this other place where you meet that is so supported, and you know each other and you trust each other and you have the benefit of the doubt of each other, and you have a vocabulary together whereby even when it will inevitably get hairy because all your attachment wounds are going to come up, when it gets hairy, you've got somewhere to, rather than run away to your opposite corners, you've got a place to where it can be a journey into more intimacy. Because you have a vocabulary, and we all know, oh, that's this happening. Oh, can I give you the space? Like, it's so respectful. People are taking things far less personally because we've all read the attachment theory books. So people can everybody can really like realize that we are regulating each other when we get into a relationship, and really like
we are. It's how our nervous systems work.
Co-regulate and learn about, take that seriously, just like you take having a fire alarm in the house seriously, or you know, it's just part of life that you have to make sure it's covered.
Like I fully agree with you. Like, slowness is really beautiful, and I've learned that when I go slower, I get to like really taste all the little parts that are happening in me, all these little things, and it's easier to be in the observer as well. That part of me that like is like a spectator of the show. But at the same time, I also don't want to wrong like casual sex or people who do sleep on the first date.
That's why I was saying it's not for everyone. I'm just saying that when the original question was how when I go into a relationship. So it's not really about one night stands. The question, it's like for the people who are into thinking about relationship. I would say the slower the better. Like, I miss that it would take before cars. I wish I could have a week to live just like how it was before there were the combustion engine, where you would go horse and cart. It would take you 4 weeks to get to Liverpool.
And sending a letter instead of WhatsApps.
And you'd stay the whole season if you visited. You didn't go and pop there and back. You know, you would be there for the summer. So you get everything out then, because you'll be spending lots of time together. But yes, but I think that even though we are in a relationship already, or even if we had sex with that person we really like already, we can still slow down. And slowing down might not
may not only be in whether we have sex or not, but I'm noticing, like, I'm in this new partnership since a few months now, and just slowing down on this container, this relationship container that we can have, like, okay, now I'm with you, so I have to be together with you for the rest of my life, or all these other, like, I'm noticing that when I like someone, I can be really fast in all these next steps, and with everything that comes with that. But to also slow down in that and be feeling like, what do I feel now with this person? Like, what's the desire now? And not what do I do now to get to where I think I should be? But like, really, what's the next step now? What feels good now? Do I actually want to see this person now, or do I want some time on my own? That really helps me as well, and also in friendships or close connections, is to and to not feel too exposed, is to come back to myself and to know which tools I have for going inward. Like, one of my tools is to talk. I get to know myself by writing or talking, like one-way direction traffic towards someone. So I have a friend that I can send endless WhatsApp voice notes. Just, one-way direction. I'll know she'll listen whenever she's got time. So then I'll just walk. I go for walking around the block for 20 times, just talking to her, sharing about my feelings. So I go back inward and notice what's going on here, instead of having my whole heart with the other person all the time.
Yeah. So that's the kind of dependence, even though there is a definite dependence that can't be avoided, where we are just physiologically regulating each other's nervous systems in different ways.
Yeah.
There's the dependence to make that person the reason why life is or isn't okay, I think is the big alarm bell. And I think that's the trap I've always fallen into in the past. If the relationship or everything was lovely and beautiful with her, life was amazing.
Yep.
If he was upset with me, or we were fighting, or some shit was going, or I was nervous about something, life was unlivable. And it was like, it was too much. I think that relationship, maybe in my life, or maybe everybody, I can only speak for myself, I've had to demote its importance.
Well, I must say, Jamie, I've known you for years now. You've become a bit more a stable person since a few years ago. So you're doing
in this subject.
Right.
Yeah. So, to make it much less central.
Yeah.
And I have this, when I'm making my fun ancient Chinese mythology up, the secret of the 8 bowls is just that concept of really deciding what are the 8 things that make you go to sleep with a smile on your face. And what, mine are like present time off screen with my kids is one. Being helpful in general is one. I feel good at having done that. Cleaning the house or my body, or general body and home care, and clearing out the closet, or taking a whole bag of stuff, like doing that, it feels good. Music, books and literature, my bowls, and there are 8.
Yeah. Doesn't
have to be 8. When I really make sure they're tended to, then relationship can be one of those bowls. It may be even slightly than some of the, but it's not the middle bowl.
Yeah.
And because then you make it much harder for the children part to feel safe.
Yeah.
They feel safe when their parents feel great. So if you're the parent of those kids, they feel safe when you're balanced.
Yeah.
And, our culture makes money and relationship the 2 things of currency of how you're doing as a human.
Yeah, of course.
Partly body as well.
Rationalize it, and it's, absolutely.
So there's a lot of weight on people to make too much weight on the sexual part of their relationship or whatever. It's like it's kind of been all blown a bit out of proportion.
Yeah.
And we could all just demote its importance a little bit and just make it part of everything else that's going on.
It makes so much sense. We all have friends that once they got into a relationship, they completely disappeared. And all I did was being in that relationship. And sometimes those friends would come back later and tell me how lonely they were at that time, and how they, stopped, kind of like you always say that so beautifully, that people like start as this castle with all these rooms and stuff, and then edit themselves when our parents don't like something. But I guess we do the same thing in relationships. That I remember in a past relationship, the partner that I had didn't like the amount of books I had, so or records. So I thank goodness that I gave the records that I owned to my mom, so she stored them, so I still got them. But I got rid of so many of my books. And I am the kind of person who loves books around. And my whole house is like a bookstore. There's books everywhere. I read most of them, but no, I just want books around. And I just started, giving books away, selling books, anything. And I just felt that in my heart that I was censoring myself. And then when that relationship stopped, the first thing that I promised to myself is like, doesn't matter how many Marie Kondo I'm going to do to my house, I never ever have to get rid of my books or records. Like I can even collect more of them. And then, after that relationship, I got a bit crazy and bought tons of secondhand books. But we censor ourselves in our relationships, and it's not helping us.
Well, that's the thing, is going in. The other thing I would say about, you asked the first question of like going straight into a relationship and, how do I, is like really, I know loneliness is a big taboo, or being single. Everyone thinks being in a relationship often is the norm. And if you're not in a relationship, you should be looking for one. I'm not really in favor of that, anymore.
No.
But that is kind of how culture looks at it. It's like, oh, you're single, let me set you up with this one or that one, as if that must be your agenda. It's like, it's just culturally kind of icky. So I'm not sure that is the thing. But even if you are looking, is like to not make it so important that you think of really compromising too much on who you really are. You were saying, and really, really go in with your eyes open. I mean, we have a self-care document that we do on the Insanely Gifted workshop, where you write like the user's manual of you. It's actually done under the idea of the patient's notes. You're collecting your own mental patient from the hospital. You have to have the patient's notes. What are the triggers? What are the symptoms? What calms her down? What's the best environment for her? The best diet for her? The best activities? It's like a file on you, your user's manual. And I think if two people going in do that really thoroughly with themselves and just really go, oh, I need this and that, and then you compare notes and really be realistic about, is this, is this going to be harmonious?
I did this for my last 2 relationships. I made this relationship intent, which is like my desires for a relationship, my deal breakers, like if this happens, I'm out, non-negotiable deal breakers, soft limits, and a user manual. And it's amazing. Like even like the relationship I have now is with a person I've known for a few years, not that well, but vaguely. And we thought we knew each other a bit, but then we were sharing the user manual, and there were so many new things in it. And it's like really a compatibility test. It's great.
And fun, because it doesn't have to be exact, but if there's enough that is the same, you can make a third document, which is the user's manual for the relationship.
Yes.
And that's something you're both devotional to. And that's been working with some people I've been working with.
Yeah, the relationship is its own entity, of course.
Exactly. And you're both devotional to it, like one of your kids. What are its needs?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a fun thing that when I coach people and they ask me like, okay, I want to go into online dating, what's your advice? I always say like, make the first bullet points on your dating profile the things that will scare people off. Try to scare them off with your dating profile, because otherwise you might get hundreds of responses of people who are a terrible match. So try to get rid of all of them, and the ones who actually like like those things, they will be great matches, and you have way less energy to put into it because you scared off that what's no match anyway.
Beautiful.
And I actually did this with the partner I have now. One of the first dates we had, I tried to scare him off all night. I was like, I've got 3 kids. He was like, fuck yeah, I've known you for 4 years. I know. Okay, you know what work I do? Come on. As I told you, I've known you for 4 years. All right. But there are naked people in my work sometimes. And he's like, I'm still here. I talk with horses. Still here. It was so much fun. But it actually also created so much safety in my system, in these inner young parts, or these inner parts that got rejected and have a whole history of partners and lovers that also hurt her sometimes. And all those parts like gradually opened up and gradually started to feel safe and be like, okay, this is actually a really great person to potentially relate with.
This culture, we're all, you and me and our close friends, teachers, trying to do is create the permission for that to not be the shop window you edited yourself down to, that you're not being the brochure of yourself and then making a whole load of sort of slightly false promises that they'll find out later, but actually just really be straight with, you know. And it's a way of valuing yourself as well, because you're raising the bar by being really yourself. You're raising the bar to a narrow amount of people that can reach it, but to settle for the ones that it's not under the bar, like they're less people, but that don't, you know, that don't feel harmonious with you. And it's funny, this is like totally contrary to what culture will, you know.
That's the scarcity mindset, I guess. You know, we should be happy when someone loves us kind of mindset, instead of there are so many people in this world and there will be, you know, there will be great matches for me. So I don't have to hold on to the first person that's looking my way or wants to sleep with me. I might say no to this person. That actually really helped me with finding a compatible partner after finding many not so compatible partners. It's just saying no to partial matches and be like, no.
That's something I'm excited about on our workshop in Amsterdam coming up, which is partly why we're doing this vid, is to really get people to own back their own love. It's not like their own, it's no one else's, but the whatever anyone's stimulating in you is yours. Even if it's Madonna on the stage or Michael Jackson or whatever, the wonderful exhilaration you're feeling is you're feeling, not them. And it's just a placebo. And to keep reminding ourselves that you know, every great, lovely, whether it be sexual or touch or sensuality or just heartful bursting with someone, if you're experiencing it in you, it's your own capacity to experience the big love coming through, and really to be, you know, to be moving from that point. You have the most beautiful sex. You have the most, because you're not doing anything to get to a finish line or to do anything for a reason. You're just bathing in the thing that's already there. So to get to be with whatever's, you know, I'm excited for us to go deep into that when we're that.
Yeah, me too, so much. We're going to be working with this permission that we were talking about too, like supporting people to find that field of permission where they can fully be themselves. Yeah. And
also another thing I'm excited for us to explore is, you know, so many people want to experience something, but one part of them feels ashamed, so they don't do it, or one part of them feels scared, so they won't do it. When we are dealing with these parts of ourselves and chatting with all the different parts of ourselves inside quite much more freely, then those parts of us that would normally like slam the door on something can come along if we ask them certain questions that make it consensual. Because sometimes we drag fragile or scared parts of ourselves into situations, whether it be parties or maybe even sexual situations or whatever, non-consensually, but we go through with it anyway because most of us wants to do it. But if you know you're going into something and you're enough in intimacy with yourself to have the relationship with that little part of yourself to say, hey, we're going to do this thing. Historically, I know this is edgy for you. Is there anything that will make this easier for you or whatever? And you have that conversation, then you actually can have a much fuller embodied experience of whatever you're heading for without a little part of yourself sabotaging it or tripping you up or pulling you back or spoiling it. So to make it consensual with yourself on the way into anything, whether it be a business meeting or a red, scarlet, purple party.
Yeah, I love that you're mentioning that, because everything, all these things that are applicable to relationships are basically applicable to any kind of relationship, whether it's romantic or parenting or colleagues or friendship. Like the expression, the way in which we express the relationship, whether it's sex or a conversation, is different, but the dynamics may not be that different.
Sure. And just, I love seeing person after person after person realize how much they've been disowning themselves and going through a way they thought, well, everyone's like that, aren't they? Or going through, well, that's how my parents told me to do it. Or going through, well, that's what people expect. But not actually really daring to be the slightly less normal person than they are. We're terrified of our eccentricity when really it's our eccentric sides that make each other fall in love with each other. You don't fall in love with somebody's normal vanilla side. No one ever said, have you met Brian? Oh, he's so fucking appropriate. Turns me on. You fall in love with people's edges and interesting eccentricities as you get to know them. And yet everybody's so terrified to be seen in their own. So to widen the aperture of how you can be discovered
Yeah.
Instead of having this tiny shop window of how you can be discovered, to show more and more and more of ourselves safely, not go over our own boundaries and make it gratuitous, but just to gradually stretch what we're allowing people to see. Opens the aperture of how much love can go back and forth. You know, if it's like, oh, I'll only let you see this, it's like a squirt. The more you do that with each other, you know, deliberately but safely. It doesn't mean you go up to every single person and be, oh, quick, let's buy, you know. It's not about that. It's about together being so sensitive to each other, like Tai Chi, that both our hands are like that, and we very gradually open them to, oh, that feels a bit much, let's go down. Oh, a bit more. We could do that together like this.
Like this.
There go. Oh, steady, steady.
Yeah. We're gonna do that with the people in 2 weeks.
It's powerful.
Yeah, we're gonna make some great exercises with all that.
Yeah. And let's not scare everyone else with the fact that it's got sex in the title.
No,
it's not like one of your kind of crazy Noah's Ark affairs.
It's not. People are going to keep at least some clothes on, at least.
Yeah, it's not a sexual touch, everyone getting naked.
Oh no.
Don't panic, everybody.
It's very safe. It's very safe. It's going to be funny because it's you and me, and then we're funny. And it's going to be wise and deep because we've got wise and deep things to share. And it's going to be very experiential because I really don't like telling people how things work. I like people to feel it in their own body. And I know that you are similar. So we're going to let people experience things. We're probably going to share some silly stories from our own lives. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. And I just love doing it in Amsterdam. There's just something that's the right place to do it.
It is.
Giving a discount to anybody who comes on the train and doesn't fly in. Didn't we say?
We didn't do that, but
you read that thing recently saying, how could we be better activists when we're doing our workshops? And you suggested, should we give people cheaper prices?
It's an unfinished discussion, actually.
Well, why don't we try? You know, on this one, you can have 20% off if you come outside of Holland.
If you are deciding to take an environmental friendlier way of transport that you could have taken, send me a message and we'll give you a reduced fee.
Brilliant. That's the way to do it.
That sounds good. All right, so I'm going to see you in 2 weeks in Amsterdam, and hopefully lots of people, and let's have a blast.
Brilliant. Thank you for coming on and doing this. I've gone a bit blind, so I'm going to put the glasses on. So
yes, wear your sexy glasses to end this.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much.
If any of you got any questions, please message either of us, because it's going to be a very interesting exploration, and we would love to hear also anything anyone would like to cover in this 4 days. It's what should we say the March dates?
It's March 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Beautiful venue, lots of fun.
Yeah, amazing venue.
Yeah.
So any questions you have or anything you'd like to explore or expand on,
pop it below, send us a message, send us an email, find us. This is what they do in videos, right? Like this video, share it with your friends, put some comments.
If we were professional, we would have graphics coming up now. Like,
we're not there yet.
Bye, folks.
Bye.